Harry's story begins at the Dursleys' house during the summer, where his anger at Aunt Marge escalates until he accidentally inflates her like a balloon. This scene is kept in the movie, but the film streamlines the lead-up, removing several smaller interactions between Harry and the Dursleys. In the book, Harry also spends time secretly doing his homework under the covers with a torch and writing letters to Ron and Hermione. The movie skips over these details, jumping more quickly to the conflict with Marge. When Harry runs away, the book details his journey through the streets, where he believes he sees a large black dog before the night bus appears. This foreshadows the grim and serious Black. The movie simplifies this, showing Harry accidentally summoning the night bus directly, without the separate encounter with the dog beforehand. The night bus sequence itself is far more elaborate in the book. The novel describes the bus as violently lurching, with beds and giving Harry detailed news about Sirius Black from Stan Shunpike. The movie reimagines the bus with a more whimsical tone, including shrunken heads and exaggerated movements through traffic, omitting much of Stan's conversation and cutting down on the world-building details. At the Leaky Cauldron, the book gives Harry time to explore Diagon Alley on his own, where he spends 2 weeks enjoying freedom, visiting shops, and interacting with wizarding culture. He learns about the Firebolt broomstick at Quality Quidditch Supplies and spends afternoons doing homework at Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor. The movie condenses this entire section into a single scene at the Leaky Cauldron, where Harry reunites with Ron and Hermione, skipping his solo time in Diagon Alley entirely. On the train, the book introduces Professor Lupin sleeping in the compartment with Harry, Ron, and Hermione before the Dementors arrive. The Dementor attack is described in detail, with Harry hearing screaming in his head before fainting. The movie portrays this visually with chilling effects, but leaves out the detail that Lupin gives the students chocolate and explains its restorative properties. The role of chocolate as a defense against Dementor after effects is a repeated theme in the book, but in the movie it is mentioned only briefly and without the same emphasis. At the start of term at Hogwarts, the book carefully outlines all of Harry's classes, including divination, care of magical creatures, and defense against the dark arts. It details how Hermione has signed up for more classes than is possible on a normal timetable, something that initially confuses Harry and Ron. The movie condenses this heavily, only briefly showing divination with Professor Trelawney and the first care of magical creatures lesson, while skipping the full schedule and the mystery of Hermione's overpacked timetable until later in the story. In divination, the book shows a long atmospheric lesson where Professor Trelawney explains the art of predicting the future using crystal balls, palmistry, and tea leaves. She makes a dramatic prediction of death when Harry sees the Grim in his tea leaves, unnerving the class. The movie simplifies this into a shorter scene, focused entirely on the tea leaf reading, removing much of the surrounding explanation of divination as a subject, and the class's overall skepticism about Trelawney's teaching methods. The care of magical creatures class is depicted differently as well. In the book, Hagrid introduces the hippogriffs, and Harry successfully rides Buckbeak, which impresses the class. Draco Malfoy insults Buckbeak, gets attacked, and then dramatically exaggerates his injuries. The movie keeps these events but alters the tone. Buckbeak's flight with Harry is shown as a long, visually stunning sequence that does not exist in the book, which only briefly describes the ride. The film also minimizes Draco's scheming after the attack, while the book goes into detail about how he manipulates the situation, using it as leverage against Hagrid. Harry's frustration with Dementors at Quidditch matches is emphasized in the book. During one match, he sees them on the field, faints, and falls from his broom, which is then destroyed by the Whomping Willow. The movie shows the Dementors swarming Harry during a match but condenses the consequences. His broom is destroyed off-screen, mentioned only later, without the same build-up or detail about his growing struggle with Dementors during Quidditch. The book dedicates several chapters to Harry learning the Patronus charm from Lupin. These lessons are gradual, with Lupin guiding Harry through repeated attempts, first producing only mist, then eventually forming a shield strong enough to repel Dementors. The process is long and difficult, showing Harry's persistence and Lupin's mentorship. In the movie, this training is compressed into a single sequence, showing only a few attempts before Harry seems to master the spell much more quickly than in the novel. Hermione's use of the Time Turner is hinted at throughout the book in subtle ways. She mysteriously appears in classes she should not be able to attend, often looks stressed and overtired, and brushes off Harry and Ron's questions. These strange disappearances and sudden arrivals build a mystery for most of the school year. The movie removes nearly all of these hints until the final reveal, so Hermione's secret is kept from the audience instead of being an ongoing puzzle. The Marauders map has additional detail in the book. Fred and George Weasley give it to Harry, explaining that it was created by 4 mischievous students called Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs, otherwise known as the Marauders. The map's ability to show every person's exact location in Hogwarts is described in detail, and Harry uses it not only to sneak into Hogsmeade, but also to monitor movements around the castle. The movie shortens the explanation of the map's history and gives less focus to Harry's extended use of it, making it primarily a tool for sneaking into Hogsmeade. Professor Trelawney's major prophecy scene also differs. In the book, during Harry's divination exam, she suddenly enters a trance and delivers the prophecy about the Dark Lord's servant returning to him that night. It is long, detailed, and unnerving, with Harry realizing it was not part of her usual theatrics. The movie includes this event but cuts down the prophecy, giving only a shortened version that removes much of the ominous wording and detail. Also, the scene happens after Harry returns to the divination classroom to bring back the crystal ball Hermione knocks away. The events leading to the climax unfold with more layers in the book. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione confront Sirius Black in the Shrieking Shack, the novel spends several chapters on this scene. Sirius explains his innocence, reveals Peter Pettigrew's betrayal, and provides backstory on the Marauders' friendship with Harry's father. Lupin arrives, and together he and Sirius recount how Pettigrew framed Sirius for the murders. The book carefully builds this dialogue, with arguments, disbelief, and gradual persuasion of Harry and his friends. The movie significantly shortens this section, condensing the explanations and focusing mainly on Sirius pointing out Pettigrew disguised as Scabbers. The transformation of Lupin into a werewolf is foreshadowed and explained in the book. Snape forces the truth to come out when he corners Lupin and the others in the Shrieking Shack, revealing Lupin had forgotten to take his Wolfsbane potion. This leads directly to his uncontrolled transformation outside. In the movie, Lupin's condition is revealed less through dialogue and more visually, with his transformation occurring abruptly in the middle of the confrontation, skipping much of the build-up about the potion and Snape's knowledge. Snape's role during these scenes is also different. In the movie, Snape protects Harry, Ron, and Hermione by standing in front of them when Lupin transforms, demonstrating a moment of bravery. This detail shows a rare protective instinct from Snape. The book changes this, having Snape knocked aside with less focus on his actions, removing the protective moment that deepened his complexity. The chase outside into the Forbidden Forest plays out differently as well. In the book, Harry and Sirius are surrounded by Dementors, and Harry believes he sees his father casting a powerful Patronus to save them. This moment ties into Harry's longing for his parents and sets up the time travel twist. In the movie, the scene is staged visually with dramatic effects, but the explanation of what Harry thinks he sees, his father, is less emphasized, reducing the emotional weight of the mistaken belief, but turned into a moment of confidence from Harry as he's explaining the result to Hermione while riding Buckbeak. The time travel sequence with the Time Turner is more detailed in the book. Hermione explains how the device works, including the strict rules from the Ministry about altering time. The pair retrace their steps carefully, witnessing earlier events from new perspectives. They free Buckbeak by distracting the executioner and later saves Sirius by forcing the Dementors away with a Patronus charm. The pacing emphasizes caution, secrecy, and the logic of how time loops must remain consistent. In the movie, this sequence is presented more visually with less explanation of the rules, and the emphasis is placed on action and spectacle rather than the methodical retracing of events. Buckbeak's rescue is significantly longer in the book. Harry and Hermione must wait for the right moment, sneak to Hagrid's pumpkin patch, and carefully time their movements to avoid being seen. The scene builds tension as they watch Cornelius Fudge, Dumbledore, and the executioner approach. The movie shortens this into a quicker escape, using details from earlier to know what to do next. Harry casting the Patronus near the lake is explained with more depth in the book. At first, he believes it was his father who saved them, but during the time travel sequence, he realizes it was his own future self who conjured the Patronus. This moment is a turning point for Harry, showing his ability to protect himself and others without relying on his parents' memory. The movie includes the same scene but simplifies the inner realization, focusing on the visual spectacle of the stag Patronus rather than Harry's emotional discovery. The book ends with the resolution of several threads. Sirius writes Harry a letter from hiding, sending him the firebolt broomstick as a gift. The firebolt is unwrapped at the very end, serving as a hopeful note for the next year. In the movie, the firebolt also appears at the end, but the scene is altered. Harry rides it in a triumphant freeze-frame shot, rather than leaving it as a quieter gift and cliffhanger. The book also includes an exchange where Harry tells Dumbledore he thought he saw his father conjuring the Patronus by the lake. Dumbledore explains that Harry truly saw himself and that this was not evidence of his father's return, but proof of Harry's own strength. This moment reinforces the theme of Harry stepping into his parents' place and shaping his own destiny. The movie condenses this conversation, giving Dumbledore fewer lines and softening the emphasis on Harry's personal growth through this revelation. The book ends with Harry returning to the Dursleys for the summer, armed with Sirius Black's letter stating he is Harry's godfather, and that Harry has only to send word if the Dursleys mistreat him again. This gives Harry leverage and comfort going into the next year. The movie does not include this detail, ending instead with the upbeat shot of Harry flying the firebolt, skipping the important shift in Harry's relationship with the Dursleys that sets the tone for the following book.
Mischief managed. Nox.